The Russian army suffers the greatest losses in the battles near Bakhmut, but the city, despite constant attacks and shelling, remains an invincible Ukrainian outpost.
As for Bakhmut, this is no longer even in a strategic military plan, although there is such thing, but more symbolism, which the Kremlin regime loves very much. Plus, the Kadyrov forces and mercenaries of Wagner private military company want to prove and show the bunker grandfather that they are capable of something. But for now they are losing thousands of their soldiers there, who remain there forever. Serhiy Haidai, head of the Luhansk Regional Military Administration, on the air of the national telephone.
Aviation of the defense forces effectively supports ground forces. During the day it carried out 2 strikes on the areas where the Russian troops were concentrated, while missile and artillery units struck 5 command posts, as well as the area where enemy manpower was concentrated.
In the Donetsk region, 4 P-1 self-propelled artillery vehicles were destroyed, and in the Zabarine district of the Kherson region, the headquarters of the invaders was struck during a meeting of officers of the Southern Military District of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation. As a result, up to 70 servicemen were wounded. The death toll is being specified.
Analysts at the Institute for the Study of War believe that the Russian occupiers have slowed down in their advance and can no longer maintain the pace of offensive operations.
Russian forces will likely struggle to maintain the pace of their offensive operations in the Bakhmut area and may seek to initiate a tactical or operational pause. Russian forces currently lack the necessary stockpile of artillery munitions to support large-scale offensive operations, and that sustaining defensive operations along the lengthy front line in Ukraine requires the Russian military to expend a significant number of shells and rockets daily. From a report by analysts at the Institute for the Study of War.
In the Zaporizhia direction, the Russian army is engaged in the transfer of reserves of equipment and manpower. A large amount of military equipment entered from the Russian side and moved through the Mangush in the direction of Berdyansk and Melitopol. It also became known that in the occupied Vasiliivka the Russian occupiers tightened the regime and introduced a curfew. It will last from December 28th of this year until January 4th.
On the one hand, this may be a distraction. On the other hand, it may be their attempt to counterattack the real or imaginary Ukrainian supporters and the resistance movement.
In the Kharkiv direction, soldiers of the Russian army continue to shell cities and villages. During the day, the invaders launched a missile attack on the Kupiansk region. The Ukrainian defense forces repulsed the attacks of Russian troops.
The weather bothers us a little, as you can see, both fog and sleet. The equipment is a little heavy, therefore there are certain problems. But believe me, in the near future the entire territory will be liberated. We will no longer allow the enemy to cross our border.
In the Kherson direction, the Russian military continues to terrorize the civilian population and hit civilian infrastructure. 9 settlements were affected by the attacks.
Here the forces are separated by a natural barrier, the Dnipro River, and accordingly artillery battles take place. From our side, we hit military targets. First of all, we are talking about the destruction of enemy logistics, command posts, and intense counter-battery work. The enemy, in turn, inflicts, as we see, serious blows on the civilian population.
During the full-scale invasion, the Russian army lost more than 100,000 personnel and thousands of units of military equipment. Every day the number of Russian invaders killed in Ukraine is around 500 people. Reported by Serhiy Kulas, Yulia Bil, UATV News.